Okay, friends, is Diablo 4 becoming like Diablo 3? There's a new video here from Rika, and I heard this sentiment a lot in my community here as well, especially in regards to the difficulty changes and other things that are coming, and mostly I think good things coming from Diablo 3 into Diablo 4, but let's hear what he has to say.
And Diablo 4 is finally embracing its role as a sequel to Diablo 3. With its upcoming expansion, we're seeing a massive overhaul to the game that is transforming it into something completely different. The D4 devs also shared what percentage of the player base plays solo, and I bet the answer will surprise you.
It was crazy high. I think like 80 or 85% play solo, but again, they're doing a group finder now, so that number I think will change. But 85% of people play alone.
Video will go over a roundup of Diablo
in an
4 news
open
of
world
the week,
game,
as well as touch upon a couple other news stories in the gaming world, like why Black Myth Wukong has yet to release on Xbox, and 2 big game failures this week. But starting right off with Diablo 4 news. We'll start with a wrap-up of a few more details that have trickled in from the Gamescom interviews from last week. From a Windows Central interview, we learned that there are currently no cosmetic customization options for the mercenaries. The quest to unlock mercs will not need to be repeated each season, but leveling up your rapport with
they could sell that, huh? Mercenary skins. People have also been asking for druid skins, but when they are shapeshifted. That could also be pretty cool.
Your mercenaries, in order to level up their skill trees, will need to be repeated every season. We also got confirmation that the Dark Citadel, the raid, will scale in difficulty with player numbers. And again, it's minimum 2 players. No, your mercenaries will not fill up the additional slots. From an interview with streamer Onacake, we learned that a whopping 85% of Diablo 4 players currently choose to play solo.
I didn't expect that, but they also didn't really specify what it means. 85% players play solo. I mean, does that mean they never play with other players, or they like mostly play solo and maybe sometimes they play with other players?
That is a staggeringly high number, much higher than I expected. Which makes the choice of adding a raid that cannot be completed solo even more bizarre to me, when the vast majority...
But again, right now, we don't have this party finder, and people can't even group properly because there's nothing, no social system in the game to group up. So I'm expecting that this 85 number, whatever exactly it means, is going to come way down that now that we're getting a party finder in the game.
Of the player base chooses to play solo. Now, part of the reason for adding this group activity is to encourage group play, and the devs believe the solo player number percentage will drop as a result of this.
I think it's going to go to like 60%.
Fairness, if Diablo 4 had more robust social features to facilitate grouping, I do imagine the numbers already would look a lot better. Diablo 2 had player lobbies and chat rooms. Diablo 3 had instant matchmaking and community groups. Diablo 4 is the least social of these Diablo games. But with the introduction of the group finder with Vessel of Hatred, that may be about to change. Outside of that, I hope we also get to see more clan support in the future. Clans exist now, but it would be nice to have, say, clan housing or otherwise just more going on with clans. Then, from an interview with streamer Rob, we learned that during testing, the devs felt that having the mercenaries be as powerful as players didn't feel right, and so they decided to have mercenaries focus on buffing the player. And I think this is the right approach. You don't want your sidekick outshining you, but then if he's weaker than you, he can feel basically useless. So being a support for you, that just feels right. And that
I like that as well, but I know in Diablo 2, you could also like make your mercenary scale damage a lot. And obviously the mercenary like shouldn't steal the show, but I think it would be cool to have some options and some ways to make the mercenary like deal damage as well. But yeah, they more went like the support route, like they're basically like an addition to your character, like supporting your build, giving you status effects like bleeds, giving you damage, pulling the enemies together. You saw the chains, and that's pretty cool.
That's the role they're most appreciated in both Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. They're there to help us with our builds. So in Diablo 4, Subo the Archer will give us resource cost reduction and cooldown reduction buffs. Rahir, the
Cool
shield
down.
bearer, he's going to give us armor and resistance buffs. And we're not sure yet what the other two do, but if I had to guess, maybe attack speed buffs, crit chance, or crit damage buffs. Maybe even applying vulnerable to enemies for us. That'll help sorcerers. Or maybe buffing our damage over time. Overall, I think they'll be more offensive leaning. Now, it seems that the mercenaries will operate kind of like how they operate in D3. When they die, they don't actually die, they just take a knee, and it takes them 45 minutes, I meant 45 seconds, to catch their breath and get back into the fight. Or you can click on them to revive them in order to speed this up. Mercenaries will not count as minions or companions for the purposes of synergies with skills or aspects. Also, even if you're playing as a party, you can still earn rapport with your mercenaries, so you don't have to play solo just to level up your mercenaries.
And in a party, you still get the reinforcement of the mercenary. So you can still trigger one of your mercenaries to come to your aid.
Which is good because some people just only group play, and even in groups, you still get to use your passive mercenary. As a reminder, you have one active and one reinforcement or passive mercenary. We're getting 2 new character slots with the expansion, plus 13 unique cat mounts, including jaguars, panthers, lions, tigers, oh my.
And we've already seen them here in the data mine. So there's this entire thing here where they have the mounts. I'm going to link this below as well. And you can see these new mounts here coming. So panthers, lions, there's even like a female, a lioness, leopards, cheetah, puma, tiger, panther, like all kinds of stuff, man. It's looking really, really cool.
Really hope we can get a rebirth option one day. So instead of having to delete your old
characters, and we're getting one more character
for new characters in the new season, you just rebirth an old character, and that means you keep the same name of the character, the same appearance, the same hours played are still saved on this character, but cool. They are reset.
I have this barbarian still that I got the level 100 as world first, and I don't want to delete him. And yeah, the mercenaries will not be on the PTR this Wednesday. Yes.
Down to level 1.
They won't be there.
All the gear is mailed to your eternal stash, and they get converted into a level 1 fresh seasonal character.
This is like one of the features, this rebirth, that Diablo 3 had, that I would also love to see in Diablo 4. And then, I mean, obviously, Diablo 3 had a pretty amazing armory system. You could like save your entire thing and then basically like switch around the builds. And there was like up to 10 builds you could save. So soon in Diablo 4 as well.
Oh, and Nightmare Dungeons will be available for leveling as of level 1. Interesting change. Then, from an interview with streamer Odijo, we learned that Blizzard has no plans for more defined player roles in a party. Like in a traditional MMO, you have the healer, the tank, the DPS. So it seems they're not looking to design the raid co-op mechanics with something like that in mind. They want any class to be able to do any interaction with the mechanics, and I'm glad about this. I prefer...
That's cool, but I still think there's gonna be like a support buff. We have actually played, I think the current highest pit clear is 180 with a full Z DPS Barbarian, especially after all the recent nerfs. Barbarian does not really look like a DPS character. And there is a lot of cool stuff though with the war cries and pulling the Barb can do to support the party. So I think support Barbarian could be on the horizon for the raids. And they kept adding items, for example, like the Broken Chain that actually has a good value for the party. And actually, they even said it in the stream, is like more like a support kind of item. We'll see.
In my ARPGs, that roles are not established by the devs, but rather emerge naturally from player builds. For instance, in Diablo 3, you have DPS builds, and then you have different support builds. But the devs never went out to make a support class or a support build. It was emergent gameplay that led to this. Okay, on to the biggest news of this week though, the patch 2.0 campfire chat. It was the longest campfire chat yet with the most...
AAA movie duration, man. 2 hours, 15 minutes of compact Diablo 4 update information and rune words.
Amount of content to get through.
That's amazing.
Over 2 hours. I got a summary video going over everything, but we'll touch upon some highlights here, as well as some extra details. First off, they're completely redoing the difficulty system. Level scaling. Max level will now be 60 with 300 Paragon levels on top of that. This affects monster scaling, item
Biggest
power.
update yet.
Sacred
That's
items are entirely gone. This is just going to feel like a whole new game now with regards to progressing to our final build. And the changes overall make Diablo 4 look like Diablo 3 2.0. We're fully leaning into the D3 influence now. They had to distance themselves from D3.
Is it though D3 2.0? I think especially on the graphic side of things, like it looks still completely different, and there's like so many like different systems that Diablo 3 doesn't have, like the world bosses, like, you know, some of the raids that they're doing now in the Dark Citadel and stuff. And I don't think it's fair to call the game D3 2.0. I've also seen this on the forums. Obviously, they took some good things from Diablo 3, like the new gem system that we are getting, and putting it into Diablo 4, but it's not Diablo 3 2.0. The itemization system is also completely different. We're getting rune words, which we never had in Diablo 3. This is like a Diablo 2 system. And I think it's actually pretty cool to take... They don't have to reinvent the wheel with everything, right? Like, they can take the things like the armory system in Diablo 3 that worked well and put it into Diablo 4, and it's gonna make it a better game, in my opinion. And some of the gem changes, like the glyphs that they are doing, the upgrading on the glyphs, that's pretty cool, actually.
When D4 launched, due to the stigma that Diablo 3 carried. But now that all the D2 folks have left D4, and D4 has increasingly moved towards being more and more like D3 every season, much to the game's improvement, I might add, we are now taking a full dive into D3 territory, and it seems it's for the better. The new difficulty system is very similar to Diablo 3's. The new glyph system is similar to Diablo 3 Legendary Gems.
I mean, we don't have like a T4 Torment 16 just yet, right? Like, people have been asking for like a World Tier 5, and they basically revamped the entire thing now, and we're getting different Torment systems. Like, this is basically World Tier 4, World Tier 5, World Tier 6, World Tier 7, if you will. But again, the entire system is getting a rework. And you're getting some big penalties and some big rewards. So I like it a lot.
The pit they added in Season 4 was Greater Rifts. The new Paragon system is more like Diablo 3's, with Paragon levels shared across your characters.
But
now,
not
that
infinite.
said, they're taking inspiration from D3 systems with an understanding of what problems those systems had and how to solve those problems in Diablo 4. For instance, Diablo 3 had like 20 different difficulty settings, but only a few of them were relevant. The different difficulties now in D4 will feel like meaningful progression steps rather than just smooth and easy transitions. Before you reach level 60, you'll have 4 different...
And there's no more capstone dungeons that you need to unlock those.
...difficulty levels. And then once you hit 60, you unlock an additional 4, Torments 1 through 4. And one thing we learned in the patch notes after the campfire chat is that each torment level will impose an increasing penalty to our armor and resistances. In current day D4, depending on your class and build, it can be really easy to max out your armor and your resists. And it's looking like it'll be more difficult to do so at higher difficulties in Season 6. By Torment 4, we have a negative 100% penalty to our resistances, as well as a negative 1,000 to our armor, and our armor cap is just 1,000. Then other big news.
So this is like the graph here that they showed, and this is the graph pretty much that I made out of it. So you guys can see here that these are the new difficult systems. So normal, hard, expert, Pentient, T1 to T4, and this is the equal pit level on life. So the hardest difficulty is equal to pit level 130. Plus you have these debuffs of 1,000 armor and 100 res. So it actually makes Hell Tides pit level 130 if you want to. It gives strongholds, world bosses, and also the Dark Citadel, which they also confirmed in one of my interviews here, that this is scaling with the difficulties, like Riker mentioned. So, I mean, it's gonna be pretty cool to do a World Tier 4 Helltide, for example, or even Infernal Hordes. So this is basically going to be like a Tier 10 Infernal Hordes or something. It's just going to be called World Tier 4 Infernal Hordes. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Rune words were announced. As we predicted last week, yes, the second socket in the helm was indeed a sign that rune words were coming. They're very different from
prediction.
Diablo 2 runewords, however. They're similar instead, almost identical to the original Diablo 4 runewords that were presented to us years ago. It's the 2-rune runeword
Condition
system
and
with a
effect.
trigger rune and an effect rune. So there's hundreds of potential combinations, and it looks like they're really opening up some build options. You can even use runes as components to craft mythic uniques, and you can trade runes just like the good old days. For full details on how runewords will work, you can check out my other video.
I'm still not sure if those runes are really going to be the currency, because it looks like you can upgrade them pretty comfortable here. Like they showed this in the blog post, that even to get a jar rune, you don't really have to do all too much. Where was it? I mean, I don't know. But you can basically combine like 3 runes and then get a legendary rune, the way I understood it. And you know, jar rune had a lot and big value in Diablo 2, but I'm not so sure if it's gonna have this tremendous amount of value in Diablo 4. And I don't, I mean, I would hope so, but I don't really believe that it's gonna be established kind of as a trading currency rather than gold, because they just don't function the same or very different from Diablo 2. And I don't think in nowadays gaming world that they can make the runes as rare as they were in Diablo 2. Now, I'm a big fan of the rune system, how it was in Diablo 2, where you could cube them up and you could like, you would actually have to farm hundreds of hours to get, you know, one of a jar or a burr rune to build your Enigma. But gaming has moved on and people just don't have that much time. So, I mean, why I would be completely okay farming hundreds of hours just to find like one of these high runes, I think the majority of the player base would not be. You know, they have like a lot of other stuff to do, and yeah, making video games that like require like a lot of time investment is just not anything that's like in the trend right now. People like this like boom, instant gratification. They don't really want to work for it so much anymore. So I think it's gonna be like a very like, they call it like punchy, like easy access system that you know, even people that only invest like a few hours a week will have a chance of finding. And I mean, for the game, I guess it's better. I would personally prefer a system that would be where these runes would be rare, but I don't think we're gonna get it. We'll see on the PTR.
The significant thing they've managed to do is revitalize Nightmare Dungeons. They basically swapped the roles of the Pit and Nightmare Dungeons. Now we level up our glyphs in the Pit, and we farm masterworking materials in Nightmare Dungeons. And this actually works perfectly. Nightmare Dungeons are tedious right now because we just want to race to the end to get our glyph XP, but the entire design of the dungeon is basically made to slow us down. Whereas pits are just about blasting straight to the end super fast, and they're designed to facilitate that gameplay. Now, masterworking materials will drop from every chest and elite pack and just everywhere in Nightmare Dungeons. So you're not going to feel like you're wasting time when you go down the wrong branch or, you know, just killing monsters. Then we've got confirmation that an armory is in the works in order to save and load our builds.
Yes!
But it won't be coming with Season 6. And they also confirmed that we're...
Wait, did they say that? The armory, I think they hinted at it. The armory is not coming in Season 6, so it's not coming for Vessel of Hatred launch? What?
Save and load our builds, but it won't be coming with Season 6. And they also confirmed that we're getting a Season 6 mechanic.
So we play the entire Season 6, the entire Vessel of Hatred launch without an armory. I missed that.
But it won't be coming with Season 6. And they also confirmed that we're getting a Season 6 mechanic, which we technically didn't have in Seasons 4 and 5.
There were so many news, man.
Every class is getting one new active skill plus some new passive skills.
They said it's coming next year then, roughly. Armory in 2025 then? I mean, we have this 3-month seasons, right? So it's launching October, November, December. In January, maybe we get an armory.
For instance, is getting a spin to win knife throwing skill, and I'm all about that. Overall, I was really impressed with the presentation. Prior to this, I was getting really concerned about a huge shakeup in the foundation of the game. We kept seeing...
They rebalance everything. There's a stat squish coming as well. They rebalance it all.
Signs that this was coming, and it was concerning me. We finally got the game into a good, fun state. Season 5 is the best season, is the best Diablo 4 has ever been. And now what? We're going to suddenly change the formula. But this campfire chat inspired a lot of confidence. Seasons 4, 5, and now 6 are looking to be absolute bangers. They've been
Hell
building
yeah.
up momentum, and if the team can keep cooking like this, Diablo 4 is going to rocket up my list of best ARPGs. Oh, and a great quality of life change. We'll be able to select our town portal waypoint. Thank goodness. Goodbye, Giacool. Hello, Karagar. Another addition that was not...
Or you can directly go to the Tree of Whispers. Anywhere you want to go. Any waypoint you can select as your favorite one with the new town portal system.
Covered in the campfire chat, but was found in the patch notes. We're not just getting 2 new mythic uniques, but a third. The Shattered Vow, mythic unique polearm. Its special power is to execute enemies that are afflicted by more damage over time than remaining life. And on lucky hit, you have a big chance to become berserking.
And we are also getting a fourth. It looks like this. This is for the apex predator of the jungle, the Spiritborn. Plus 27. I still can't believe it every time I look at this, man. Plus 27 to all skills. This is going so crazy. 4 new Uber uniques are coming. A helm, a chest, a polearm, and the glaive. And on top of this, this makes all your hits crits, all your hits overpower, and it makes everything vulnerable. Gives you 400 crit damage. It gives you 50% damage reduction, and it gives you like 60% X damage as well. So, Spiritborn is gonna be wild. Plus 38 ranks to all skills, including ultimates. LFG. This thing is so crazy.
Mechanic. Normally left to barbarians. Any execute mechanic in Diablo games has led to broken combos. We'll see how this one works out, but so far this seems like a bleed barbarians dream mythic. We'll be getting a PTR launching next Wednesday.
So I don't really like this new polearm. I don't think it's that good. I think it's in the data mine here as well. They showed it. Let me quickly open this. So we are talking about... Where's that? Shattered Vow. This one. Yeah. Execute enemies afflicted by more damage over time than remaining life. This is basically a rupture that is active like whenever the bleed exceeds the health of the monster. But always the thing is, if you already inflicted so much damage, the target would die in the next 5 seconds due to it bleeding or burning out anyways. Then you can just wait 5 seconds and just play another multiplier rather than this weapon. So I'm not really sure. I think this is going to be played not by barbarians, but by other classes, such as the druid, that basically allows then to have berserking on the druid. But the barb is easily entering berserking, and I think this is like an underwhelming uber unique. But people are hyping this one up, and I just don't see it. I just don't see this is any good. Like the grandfather is like literally like twice as good than this compared to this one. But yeah, we'll see, of course, what is going to be happening on the PTR.
To test out the changes, but meanwhile, WoW had data mined the PTR contents and found something undocumented. Something that was later confirmed by
Oh man, they found something. They again, guys, I'm gonna link this data mine below, man. They found everything in this data mine, like, man, they found the new mounts, they found the new consumables, they found the tempering scrolls, they found the raid banners. I already have a separate video what all they found. I'm gonna link that below. They did find new elixirs, new crafting mods, like pretty much new everything is what they found. It was crazy. Yeah, here are the new cat mounts we showed earlier. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Again, you can check this data mine. It is 50,000 lines or something. It's long.
As radar, massive changes are coming to gems. First off, we're getting a new tier of gem, but more importantly, rubies will no longer give max life.
Yep.
Instead, they'll give strength. This will really shake up the meta.
This will screw up Thrawn's build even more, unfortunately.
Everyone
but
popping
we'll see.
rubies.
Everything is getting rebalanced.
Helm, pants, and chests for a ton more max life. Now, we're likely to see people go with their main stat for more damage. Oh, and of course, the 2 rune words that we're allowed to use per build. So, outside of that news, the Goblin event has been running this week, and between that and Infernal Hordes, Season 5 has really highlighted that, once again, we may need a loot filter. Now, I've always held that needing a loot filter is a symptom of a problem, that games should never need a loot filter.
I think the game should just have a loot filter. I keep hearing this argument, but it never makes sense to me. Like, we just need a loot filter. Filter out rare items, filter out magic items, and then you can choose, do you want to see non-greater affix items or no? That would be like so simple. But they refuse to do it.
And I would rather solve the problem at its root than just slap a loot filter on a game to allow us to ignore the problem. But I've also said that if we cannot find a way to solve the problem at its core, then...
And I mean, they've been trying for a year now, right? I think it's finally time, please, to get a loot filter.
Yes, we need a loot filter. Thanks to Infernal Hordes, we're getting a ton of items to drop again. And with the Goblin events, there's so much junk dropping, and loot bags are the same color as yellow items, and you're trying to find the boss materials to click on.
And they all despawn. They drop on the floor, and then it overloads the instance, just like on the mythic bosses if you kill more than 6. And all your uber uniques and all your items and your goblin bags, they all fall off the floor. You can't get them, they bug out, they go straight into hell, and you never see them again.
And everything just slows down
at the
as
moment.
You're sifting through.
They hotfix some stuff, but it's still happening
on screen, and this is all 100 times worse on controller, where you can't selectively pick one item among 10. You have to pick up everything. So
and then there's people on a controller. Do I have this clip? Oh man, here's the clip, guys, of all the loot falling off the floor. They changed some stuff, but it's still happening. People still reported this on the stream here, that they still lose the bags. Wait, what do you do on a controller? Like, you can't even target click the item, right? Like, you just have to pick everything, but then your inventory is full. Yeah, oh man, dude. Look at this. Okay, so look at all these yellow items here. You see all these yellow items, and then like a second later, now I come back up there, and they're all gone. Like, all the yellow items, there's just only the legendaries left. And all the treasure bags also fell off the floor, disappeared. And this has been happening also for many, many months now in just normal bosses, where the loot just falls off the floor if you don't salvage it. So yeah, you don't get them. And there's been a hotfix, but it's still happening to people.
So one way to add a loot filter would actually be to allow our pets to automatically salvage certain items. So, for instance, you can set your pet to automatically salvage anything that doesn't have at least one greater affix on it.
We had this in Diablo 3. And I mean, the title of this video, it sure looks like Diablo 4 is becoming Diablo 3. Again, the game should be different, but there's some things that Diablo 3 did so well, such as the armory, such as the pet auto-salvaging yellow items. Man, we need that. And this is not Diablo 4 becoming Diablo 3. It's literally just the quality of lifetime that, I don't know, 15, 20 years of experience in Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 showed. I mean, they made these systems for a reason. They can build on the learnings of Diablo 3 for Diablo 4 without transitioning Diablo 4 into Diablo 3. But like, again, they don't have to reinvent the wheel with the armory. Like, the armory from D3 was good.
Earlier in the game, anything that is yellow or lower, it'll automatically salvage. And
there was a lot of good systems, and again, like, it took like 10 years, and the team in Diablo 3, the developer team, they kept improving the game as well. A Reaper of Souls in Diablo 3 was like a massive W, and the game just kept evolving, and there's a lot of good features, both from Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, that are still missing to this date on Diablo 4, even though I think, in my opinion, many of these features, like the armory, should have been in Diablo 4 right from the beginning. But it was like the launch was kind of rushed, there was COVID, there was a lot of stuff, so I get it, but it's time now.
Pick up all the junk and auto-salvage it, leaving you with the loot that you want to pick up. So rather than hiding items, it's gobbling them up and breaking them down. The pet becomes a loot filter by turning it into a mobile junk scrapper. All the filter options that you'd put on a loot filter, put them instead on the pet. Then in other news, Black Myth Wukong continues to do very well.
Alright, this was the Diablo video here from Riker. Check it out, my friends. I'm going to link it here. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much agreeing with the stuff that Riker here is saying. And these new Spiritborns look amazing, by the way. The systems that they are looking to implement that were similar in Diablo 3, such as difficulty systems, such as the armory, such as maybe like the pet picking up your loot and stuff. I think these are very good changes, and Diablo 4 is not becoming Diablo 3 2.0. It still has like so many things going on its own. It also has elements from Diablo 2, the skills, the graphics, like everything is completely different. I don't even know how people can say this. The entire itemization is different, and the itemization I think is maybe not on the level of D2, but it's certainly a lot better than itemization in Diablo 3. And then Paragon boards, like, it's also not the same. Like, we had an infinite Paragon system in Diablo 3 where you were grinding +5 main stat. I mean, like many of you know here, viewers on the channel, that I don't like that they are capping the boards to 5. I think this actually limits player choice and goes back to like a +5 main stat grind. But fundamentally, the Paragon system is like way different from the infinite +5 main stat grind that they had in Diablo 3. And again, other things such as difficulty selector and stuff are gonna be really good. And then we have like obviously like completely different classes as well. We have the Spiritborn coming, and this is like a complete new class. And we also have, you know, like other classes and probably more classes cooking here that are gonna be somewhat new, but also with some old skills and some old things that you would recognize. Anyways, I think it was a pretty good video, and I don't think Diablo 4 is exactly becoming like Diablo 3. I think they just take the good systems, and they should, from Diablo 3 and Diablo 2 to a degree, and putting it into Diablo 4. Again, it should have had many of these from the beginning, in my opinion. But here we are, and the game, Diablo 4, is improving a lot. I can't wait to play on the PTR here in just a couple days, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Check out GJ, and I'll see you soon. GG. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.